Hi, everybody. I'm Audrey Moore with Audrey Helps Actors, and this is episode number 46. Looking to fix your acting career. Coming up, fall episodics. I'm so excited, you guys. Are you getting ready for fall episodics? Because I am. Okay, big shout out. We have announced our winner, Haley O'Connor. What's up, girl? That's Haley with two Y's, Hayley O'Connor. She found out that she won. She was at dinner in the East Coast, which I love, with a bunch of non-actor friends. And she said that none of them could understand why she was so geeked out. So I'm so excited to have you on. It's easy for me because you're in LA. So pop on over, girl. I will be contacting you. Haley, if you could email me at audreyhelpsactors@gmail.com. That's audreyhelpsactors@gmail.com, and I will go ahead and we will schedule a little meaty poo. That would be so exciting. I'm so excited. So again, huge congrats to all of you who did Self-Tape May. People have really taken notice. A lot of people are continuing to do their self-tape practice. That's so great. Remember that I was doing that thing that a lot of you did, which is, learning sides at night and then giving yourself one take the next day. I was doing that for about 2 years. So I learned so much in that process. I'm working on my own targeting and refining now. I'm always working on getting better to get to the next level. And wherever you are, the practice of self-tapes, the practice of auditioning is something that you can do for next to nothing, sometimes absolutely nothing. Find people that are going to work with you and practice and just get the work done, learn and grow. That's really what you can do here. And there's so many people out there trying to do audition classes and all that. And I think that's great, but a lot of work can be done just through the practice of working on your own. It's exactly the same as, going to the gym and then having a trainer. You don't have to have a trainer every time to work out. You can work out and then have a trainer who's maybe guiding you along the way sometimes. That's what I want for your Self-Tape May practice. And I want you to extend it for your self-tape practice throughout the year. I'm so excited. Okay, so a couple of announcements. We are trying to do a live show, so no promises, but hopefulnesses. So I just want to put that in your ear. So that's very exciting. Also, I wanted to talk a little bit about what I really learned in Self-Tape May, and I hope you guys can see this as well. Boy, you guys, sometimes people look identical. And then you find out that they're separate people. And I want to say Self-Tape May really gave me that lesson, because there were people that I'd be like, all right, you go. And then I would watch them and then I'd see somebody else and think that they were the exact same person. And in fact, they're not the same person. And that happened to me on several different people. So I hope you take a look at that and just look at all those self-tapes. It's like 1,700 public self-tapes. And if you look at those 1,700 public self-tapes, that's the amount of self-tapes that some casting directors are getting for a singular role. And just think about that. Think about if by the end of this week, you had to watch 1,700 self-tapes for a singular role times several roles. What is it going to take to stand out and make an impression? And I would argue, make choices in your physical, extroverted self to stand out, and also a previous relationship over time. Also, a previous relationship maybe your reps have over time. And if you could hit it from all angles, that would be even more fantastic. So just my thoughts on that. I really want to shout out to some of the people on Self-Tape May. Also, accountability bays. What's up, girls? Okay, so there are 3 of you. Only 2 of you tagged yourself in one of the posts. So I was like, oh, there's 2. So I feel really bad because obviously there's 3 of you. Danielle, Allison, and Lauren. What's up, Lauren? Lauren, I'm here to shout you out, girl. Lauren Leland is the 3rd member of Accountability Bays. And I love it even more that there were 3 of you. I know it's really hard to get 3 people together. So Danielle McCrae, Allison A. Walter, and Lauren Leland. Girls, I'm so proud of you. That's so exciting. I also wanted to do a quick little shout out to a couple of girls who through Self-Tape May have become super besties. So here goes. Amber Stone and Michaela S. Campbell. Oh, I loved their self-tapes. I thought they were so great. I love their casting. They're fantastic. These are a couple of real pros, and they found each other through Self-Tape May, and then they went and had coffee, and they took a little picture, and they were like, hey, Audrey, what's up? So please do that. Just remember, there's like 76 of you guys who did Self-Tape May and completed it. I so encourage you to be friends with each other. That's what I want to be friends with all of you. I want to be friends with all of you. I want us all to hang out together. I want us to like rise to the top together. That's how I feel. All right, you guys. This week on Audrey Helps Actors, we are talking to John Dapolito. John Dapolito is an acting coach, an acting teacher. He specializes in what he calls helping actors find their niche. He also teaches master classes in New York City. He's based out of New York, sometimes occasionally comes to Los Angeles. And he and I discuss a lot of the differences between the two coasts and the kind of actors and what they do. We talk about the importance of really knowing what you bring to the table. And he uses that through what's called a niche. A lot of people have various methods and interpretations of that, but it's basically how you bring your authenticity, your story to the table to work for the roles. And in doing so, you make the role work for you often, and you know which roles are better for you. You know how to target casting. You know what stories are really your stories. And I think it's really interesting. So I'm excited for you to take a listen, and I hope you enjoy it. Today's episode is brought to you by WeAudition.com. WeAudition.com. I used it again this week, and I had another sweet person on the other side who, when I was like, all right, thanks so much, and he said, book it, which I just love. I love that every time I go on to work with a reader, it's a listener. That makes me the most happy. So yay. So that's WeAudition.com, promo code Audrey25. Also, we're going to have Carla Zuniga. So that's my hair girl. What's up, Carla? And Carla is fantastic. I started going to Carla when I was shooting Godless, actually, because I needed some real precision in my haircut, and that is absolutely what she is, and I think that's really valuable. She is fantastic with curly hair. If you have curly hair, she's like a curly hair wizard. And you can reach out to her at Carla Zuniga Hair on Instagram. That's CarlaZuniga Hair, Hair. And I'll tell more about that during the episode. All right, you guys, I hope you're on your way to an audition. Book it!
Audrey helps actors because they don't know anything.
Hi, everybody. I'm Audrey Moore with Audrey Helps Actors, and today we have
John Dapolito.
Hi, John.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm really well, thank you.
Very good. You've had a busy couple of weeks.
I have. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So glad that you could be here. So we know each other through our mutual friend, Buckley. Those of you guys who listen to Buckley's episode, it's one of the most popular episodes of the Audrey Helps Actors series. One thing that she really thought you and I would connect on is this thing that I talk about on the podcast all the time, which is really getting specific about what you have to offer as an actor versus what somebody else has to offer. Mm-hmm. So tell me a little bit about your journey and why you're passionate about that and your clarity about that.
Absolutely. Happy to do so.
Mm-hmm.
Before I jump into that, I have to say that I'm a huge fan of Buckley's as well.
She's the best.
Big shout out to her because I really think she's a fantastic person. I think she's a complete pro, and I really do think that referrals for me are about standards, levels of excellence, and so on. And I really do believe in what she does. So that being said, the question being, how did I kind of come to this? And honestly, a lot of pain and suffering.
Yeah, me too.
Quite frankly, just a lot of pain and suffering. I felt as if I was a well-trained actor, an incredibly passionate actor. You might even say, dare I use the word, really artist bent more than actor bent.
Oh, I love that statement, particularly because you're coming from the New York scope, and that artist bent mentality is huge in New York City. So can you talk a little bit about what that means to you?
Yeah, I can tell you exactly what it means. Art for me is I can answer the problem. In other words, I'm looking at something and say, I don't like this, or this isn't working. And I actually know how to fix it.
Yes. That is hugely important to the listeners, particularly when considering auditions. There is an art to understanding the difference between what the writer wrote, what you will be delivering in the audition so they can see what they need to see, and then what they will do on set. And the three are often separate things. And there is an art form to solving that problem. And you have to, as an actor, the artistry is in the discovery and the solving of that problem.
You're in a situation, ultimately, you're live, you've been hired, you're in rehearsals, or you're shooting the film, you're shooting the television show, whatever the case may be. And it's clearly not working. The artist knows how to solve the problem because they recognize the problem from its blueprint. The blueprint for me is I know how to actually read the script as the intention of the author.
That's everything, you guys.
That level of communication that's actually happening. And have I been trained in that level of communication, which I find, unfortunately, most actors have been trained into thinking, well, what are you bringing to the table? What are you bringing to the table? What are you bringing to the table? And so what happens is most of the time they're imposing upon the script.
I have three things that then I want to talk about. One, I want to talk about what I would call a difference between a lot of the New York actors versus the LA actors, particularly in regards to training. So much of the people that are coming to you are these Juilliard, these Yale, many of them, if you go to New York, usually you have a BFA, you have an MFA, you've really put in your time. These are actors who've made it into the top programs and have spent an exorbitant amount of money usually to get a conservatory 14 to 18 hours a day, 6 to 7 days a week for 3 to 4 years training. Okay. Los Angeles, listen to me, you guys. I know you, I'm looking at you. And this is something that one of the teachers who we had on this podcast pointed out. And it's really stuck with me because I asked him about being able to tell who's got it, right? Who's got it or who's going to get it. And one of the things we discussed is the incredible power of delusion that so many actors have about where they actually are. And I notice twofold. The actors who have the conservatory training are trained and have, a facility and a passion that I just nerd out over, right? But many of them have really bad attitude problems because they feel that training has given them an entitlement to a career and to an ease of the receival of that career. And they have been sold a bill of goods and are now in $120,000 worth of college debt to be an actor in a profession where you can book 5 guest stars and make $22,000. And you're lucky to have booked those 5 guest stars.
Absolutely.
And so then they're angry, and rightfully so. Conversely, you've got in Los Angeles, my favorite saying is, nobody says to somebody in the middle America, you're so beautiful, you should move to New York and be an actor. But they do say, you're so beautiful, you should move to Los Angeles and be an actress, right? So you have a lot of actors in Los Angeles who, you guys do not have the hours. I hate to tell you, don't have the hours. You have not put in the hours to facilitate the execution of your impulses in regards to another person giving you their experience, having an impulse, giving it back, all while serving the material. You don't have the hours. And you...
So I have an observation on this
please.
because I teach on both coasts.
Oh, tell me.
And so I share this on the West Coast and I share this on the East Coast.
Love it.
So there's a compliment and a tag on each coast.
Right.
When I'm in New York City, one of the things I notice is that people, their audition skills in New York are hideous compared to the audition skills in Los Angeles.
Why is that?
People are trained in a shorter form here. They're trained to look at 2-3 pages. Most of their classes, most of their conversations, they're trained to look at the monitors. In other words, they're trained in this idea of auditioning. They're not trained in this idea of reading plays, going into classes, and really spending the time, as you're pointing out here. So here's what I've learned happens. You could take an actor or actress in Los Angeles who hasn't really acted in 6 to 7 years, hand them sides, and they're still pretty darn good. I mean, sometimes they're even as good as the really seasoned New York auditioner. But if you hand the person in Los Angeles the role, which is the lead role from there, let's say in the theater or in a television show at that point, they literally go into a panic. I know because I get the phone calls.
I know because I get the emails
Right.
and the
so
text
you
messages.
So you know what I mean. They go into a panic. Now let's flip this on New York. One of the things that I feel like New York has to learn is that they're incredibly well trained to book. You hand the New York actor or actress the job, they're ready.
They're going to kick its ass, you
They're
guys.
ready.
Yeah.
But if you ask them to walk into the audition, they're horrible.
Horrible.
Because they are they are horrible at it. And I include myself in that when I was an actor. It took me so long to learn how to become, and that's why I ended up teaching the class that I teach. It took me so long to learn because it was really hard to find auditioning classes when I was training as an actor. It wasn't hard to find booking the role and landing the role classes. Like we're doing massive scene studies and doing epic,
epic Shakespeare.
I was doing scenes that literally lasted sometimes 45 minutes straight in class.
And happy to do so.
And happy.
Yeah, delicious.
Wanting to do
Why don't you eat it all day? Yeah.
You know, I was in 3 black box theater plays at different times of a week or producing one, directing one, and in one while I was also in class.
Right.
All in the same week.
Yes.
And this went on for years.
Yes.
So in New York, we're trained to be the working actor. So I understand that bitterness can come out of, especially university.
Right.
But the reality is where we both definitely agree is that learning how to audition as its total beginning, middle, and end, its own universe, is a key. And that's why I teach the lawlessness of sides, because and again, it is exactly as its title saying, is that most actors are coming into the room, and when they start to act, they become polite actors.
Oh, I love it.
This I notice more out of New York actors than I actually notice out of LA actors. LA actors, because they already have some chops with the audition, I can get them somewhere. I can get there somewhere quicker, faster. In New York, they're like, I'm allowed to do that? I'm allowed to do that? And they can't believe that they're actually allowed to be a living, moving,
is it because
feeling
they've
human
been
being.
sold some New York actors? Is it because they've been sold some bill of goods that acting for a camera has to be restrained?
Yes.
Is that what it is?
Yes, and it's taught, unfortunately, there's a lot of people in positions of authority who really never were actors, really never were writers, really never were directors. And unfortunately, they're in these positions where they're telling people a little bit less, a little bit less, a little bit less.
Yep.
One of the things I let actors know, 2 things are possibly happening when you're being told less, less. One is you may not be as authentically alive as you think. You actually may be indicating. So they may be telling you to go less because you're giving a little bit more than you're actually have.
Yes.
The second thing is you don't recognize how I see you in the position of this episode.
Oh, yes.
You cannot steal the sunshine from the star of the show, and I'm not going to let you hear at the audition. I'm trying to help you book this part, what that casting person may be doing.
Yes.
Now, I've had the privilege in life, as many people had, to know a lot of successful people, and the stories that I would hear about, some of my friends were literally hired. I mean, I'm thinking of years and years ago, there was a John Leguizamo show on television. It didn't last very long, but John Leguizamo is an incredible actor. And he was very, very successful on the Broadway stage of doing his one-man shows, which are phenomenal. He's an incredibly good writer. He's an incredibly funny performer. He's insightful, and he surely is an artistic person in that one-person show form. He's in one of the best I've ever seen at it. That being said, there was an actor at the time, a friend of mine named Sixto. And Sixto could say hello and have you just rolling on the floor. He just was one of those personalities who was just naturally, whatever he said was funny because it was authentic, it was real, it was sincere, he was behind it, and he was just naturally a funny person. John knew Sixto and said, you have to be on my show. Now, Sixto told me this story because we were friends and because he was like saying, here's what I did. I didn't know what to do in this situation. So he gets hired on this, what was all half an hour comedy show, basically. And he's being his normal, the reason he got hired self is this guy's funny. And the producers kept coming over to him during the shooting and saying, you know it's John's show, right? You know it's John's show, right? So finally, because he had a very good relationship with John, he said to John, hey, John, are we supposed to be funny or what? Are we doing comedy here or are we doing like, don't do anything? You're. And so John had to go and have a conversation with the producers in order to even allow that kind of life to live there. So clearly John had had a lot of influence of who was going to be hired and be on that show. So there's a perfect example. I don't know who those producers are. I'm not pulling anyone out.
But I think that's common.
But it's not uncommon. That's what I'm saying. I'm telling the story because it's so common.
It's still very
that someone
common.
says, I need less from you because this is the star of the show.
Right.
The great stars of the shows, though, what I have discovered, what I've found, and the feedback that I get from helping people audition is like, if you get to set and you start bringing game, most of the time the star of the show can't wait, just feels like, oh, I get someone to play tennis with.
They love it.
This is fantastic.
Yes.
So it becomes a very alive set immediately. But if the person's young enough, naive enough to think that what was being said to them, they now have to bring that smallness or that quiet self, that mousy person, that person that doesn't really feel like them inside, or when they're reviewing the character and they're feeling like, I know where this character lives. Why are they telling me to mouse it down or be smaller? They just might be hearing, don't steal the sunshine from the star.
Right.
And my find is that if you're working with great stars, they want you to bring your sunshine because it makes them look better because their game's going to come up. They're looking for that tennis. They want to play that game. So I always encourage the person to go, look, you got to live in your light in this life. It's a short lifetime. Are you feeling good about your auditions? Not delusional.
Right.
But are you feeling genuinely good about your audition?
Right. But wait, John, wait. I have to interrupt you.
Help me. I need some help.
And now it's time for listener questions.
I'm so scared.
This listener question is brought to you by weaudition.com. That's weaudition.com. You guys, I've said so much about weaudition.com. I mean, I'm going to say it again because that's how this rolls. But it's been really exciting for me to work it. It's so affordable. It's so easy. It's so quick. You know, if I have something I'm working on and I want to just work it out loud, there's usually like a solid amount of readers that I can go ahead and request. You can favorite your favorite readers. You can become a reader for other people. So many of you are doing Uber. So many of you are doing Lyft. Instead of doing that, go on to weaudition.com, sign up to be a reader. And in doing so, you get the benefit of learning new material, working on it, you know, seeing what people are currently auditioning with and for. And maybe you can finish that and then research the project and just learn about what's sort of currently going on in the market, which I think is so important. And just practice, you know, working on scripts out loud, putting your hours, and then you might as well be getting paid for it. It's a low stakes way, I feel like, to go in and get some work done. I am so appreciative to all of you who are readers on there. It makes my life so much easier. And I really encourage you guys to give it a shot. So weaudition.com, promo code Audrey25 for 25% off your membership. Woo!
Hi, Audrey. I'm listening from Louisville, Kentucky, and I'll be moving out to LA so soon. And I had a quick question for you about package materials and when to reach out to representation. I'm a young actor. I'm just in my early 20s. I recently graduated from a BFA program. I'm a non-union actor with local representation. So far, I've done a few non-union commercials, a couple of student films, buttload of self-tape auditions, #self-tape-me. And I also went to a well-established performing arts high school as well. So I've been acting and training in theater since I was 13, and I've just been transitioning to film since graduating college. So I'm fairly confident in my craft and my professionalism. Both my high school and my college have strong alumni connections, and my current rep has some connections out in LA. So there is the opportunity to reach out to working professionals when I move in hopes of scoring some meetings with representation. But my package is not the best that it could be. It's decent, but I am not exactly striving for decent. So my question is it worth reaching out for meetings with my current package upon arrival to LA, or is my time and energy better spent at getting to LA and saving for better headshots and producing a better reel and then reaching out to reps after that? Because I'm definitely phase one, definitely looking for reps eager to work with developmental talent. But I'm thinking, like, since I'm younger and a recent graduate, maybe my current package will be understandable to reps. But if it's not, and I should have a better package, I don't want to waste too much time and then age out of those high school / younger roles. So do I reach out sooner rather than later, or do I just have a better package and reach out then? Thank you so much for everything you do. This podcast is one of the only reasons that I feel confident enough to move to LA. So thank you. Hopefully I'll see you soon in LA. Bye.
Okay, so Chris, I love this question. I'm hoping that you listen to Adrian's agent episode, because I think that is probably the most relevant to this question. The short answer to all of that question is yes. Yes, you should do all of it. When you're young, the expectation is that you don't have a reel, that you don't have your SAG membership yet, but you are correct in that you are racing in a clock of an expectation of when you would have that done by. When you come out here right out of college, you're 22, maybe 23, just remember what makes LA a really unique market is there's still actually a boatload of actors who have been acting since they were like newborns. I mean, I'm quite serious. I can't tell you the number of commercial auditions I've gone in and I've been like, hey there, Kyle, like, you work a lot, right? And they're like, my name is Kyle. I'm 6 years old. I have done 13 TV shows, 26 national commercials, and I just wrapped 2 movies. Like, word up, Kyle, you get it, buddy. So that's a real thing here in LA. So you are still up against people, but the expectation that you would have it all going for you is still pretty low. So in Adrian's episode, he talks about, we talk about the age of 27, right? So basically the expectation that by 27-ish, if you're not union, that starts to count against you. If you don't have footage that is presentable, it starts to count against you. Now, some of you are 32 and look 19, so it doesn't matter, and I'd say lie about your age as much as you can. If you're 30 and you look 19, then you're up against other 19-year-olds. And if you have all these connections and relationships and you have footage and you're union, but you're up against other 19-year-olds, well, you have an advantage of time and experience and resume that they're not going to have if they're, say, 22 playing 19. So that's where that advantage gets into. So I recommend getting the reps that you can get when you get out here. That has so much to do with connections, relationships, but it also has to do with your casting and what is sort of trending right now for your age group and your resume status. I think it sounds like you've done a solid amount of getting prepped to be out here. I think that's a good time. And then you basically do it all at the same time. You get reps. You get the rep that you're qualified when you're out here. And then, yes, I would get to work. Don't have the expectation, I would say, that you're going to get out here and you're going to have many auditions. It's very common for the first couple of years that you're out here that you get a couple auditions a year, like 1 to 5 in a year. So while you're doing those auditions and have that, there's a lot of time then for you to be prepping yourself to get things ready. So that's where I would say then, yes, come out here, get those headshots that are more professional, try to figure out what your casting is before you get out here. Google the fall TV grid and see what shows are casting in Los Angeles. Make sure you've watched them. Make sure you're researching who those casting directors are. See if you can meet them, go do workshops with them, build relationships. Then you also want to be doing headshots that are in alignment with that. And if you don't have footage, you don't have quality footage, then yes, you need to save money so that you can start to build that quality footage. It's only going to give you an advantage. Building relationships over time, in addition to having quality materials, is what a good career is built on. So I'd say yes, all of it. All right. I hope that was helpful.
And now back to your regularly scheduled program.
I love to ask teachers who are on this podcast, can you point to any traits or characteristics in the people that you have had the benefit of working with and watching grow that is indicative to the ones or indicative of the ones that do not manage to get and then maintain some success?
That's a beautiful question. Yes, I have observed that there's a tremendous amount of discipline that already happens inside the classroom with the person who actually ends up having the success in the business. It's not, they don't suddenly get to set and all their magic shows up. Their magic has been in play for a very, very long time. What I've noticed is that there's a diligence for the work. They learn, interestingly enough, they also learn quickly. They have an adaptability. They literally also come in to surrender to the teaching. A lot of people come in trying to present what they know.
Yes. Ego.
Instead of realizing adding into their toolbox. The ones who I see who do the best, who learn the quickest, who work the most, so on and so forth, show up into situations they already have a toolbox filled, but say what other tools are going to go into that toolbox. So they're open and incredibly receptive to a new tool they didn't see coming, a new way, so on and so forth, all the time while being these incredible carpenters themselves. And I think that thing you can't even claim as a teacher. That's truly
it's in them
with that person. And the person who struggles with the class struggles to show you what they know, show you what they believe, show you what their ideas are, show you how skilled they are. Again, that person hasn't come to learn. That person has come to be acknowledged.
Oh, I love that.
And there's a huge difference. Some people come to learn and they just elevate really, really quickly because they're open, receptive people. And then some people come to show you what they know, and it takes a much longer time to get that person to the teaching. And if they don't get out of that habit or realize that that habit has happened for them, they struggle in the business because from director to director, from producer to producer, from show to show, from play to play, from television to film, it's going to be a different set of factors. You have to be open.
Yes.
You must be open.
I'm going to repeat that for the audience because I think it's so important. The difference between coming to learn and coming to be acknowledged is what we talk about on this podcast all the time. It's attitude. It's an attitude adjustment. And when you come to be acknowledged, that's about an ego. That's about needing people to validate you, needing people to make this choice that you have made called being an actor a valid choice, and seeking outside of yourself somebody else validating that choice. And that is not the job of an acting class, an acting teacher, a casting director, an agent, a director, a writer, a producer, and it's nobody's job to do that for you. That's your job to do that for you. And it reminds me of a quote I was given in college, which is, "The position of the artist is humble. They are merely a channel." So it's a humble thing that we do, and it's a particularly challenging thing for the actor because there's a certain amount of ego that comes with the desire to pursue. And it's a continual swaying of that ego versus your humility and the delicate balance and dance of those from day to day, moment to moment, hour to hour within this profession, I find.
Yeah. One of my things that I do, and I try very hard to teach, is to get the actor in touch with their inner compass. So when something's working, I'll say to them, "Did you know that was working?" And often I'll get the answer, no, I don't know that it was working or what. And then I'll say, okay, you have to get to a point where you know it's working.
Yes.
Because that inner compass, will be something that you'll have to learn to listen to for the rest of your career. Because at some point, the choice is going to come through you.
Yes.
And someone might try to pull you off choice, meaning not idea, but off your authenticity.
Exactly. I love that. So let's talk about niche, and let's talk about what is, in your estimation, the difference between an actor's niche versus their essence, their casting, their branding.
Sure.
You know.
Well, first off, the reality of the niche work that I do is we literally go into a one-on-one that's a very, very deep and kind of soulful profiling experience. This is not anything that's aesthetically done. My finding is that the majority of time, I mean 99.9% of the time, a person's physical aesthetic is not actually matching up with their niche, which is why they're having an enormous problem manifesting the career they want in their lives. In other words, the acting niche is the living meditation place. That acting niche, that living meditation place, literally comes from a trauma in our early lifetime. So no one gets past 19 without having their, what I call the ground zero moment of their event, which is the fishbowl shattering moment of their life, meaning the life I've known is simply not going to be the same ever again. That can be something subtle. That can be something severe. It could be as subtle as we were living in Texas and then my family moved to New Jersey when I was 7 years old.
Yes.
The fishbowl has been shattered. My life's never going to be the same again. It could be my mom died of cancer when I was 5. It could be, as in my case, my father left the family when I was 4 years old, and it was a huge ruckus. Meditation is particular, and it doesn't change. The meditation is, let's use Philip Seymour Hoffman because he's up on my website, and if people want to look at it, they can actually look at it and follow it and so on and so forth. Philip Seymour Hoffman's living meditation is sexual perversity and addiction, meaning whatever, I don't know the age of his ground zero, but whatever his ground zero was, it created a meditation that is 24/7 helming that particular individual's psyche. So it's the helm by which all things filter through and all actions get taken through.
Love that.
Now, Philip was very out about this as a young person. Boogie Nights, doubt, so on. It just, the list goes on and on. And when you look at that list in front of you, now that someone's told you what the niche is, you see it. You're able to see the niche. So if a 20 or 25-year-old or even a 65-year-old Philip Seymour Hoffman were to come to me and say, John, I can't figure out what to do with my career, I'd say, we're going to take a look inside of you and find out where you're actually meditating in your psyche. And then I'm going to encourage you to do those roles and to seek out those roles as much as possible.
And to align your materials.
Everything with
That's
it.
what I mean. All of it.
I had a woman last night, tears just streaming down her face, and she goes, she sees it on the board. She goes, that's me.
Yes, I
And
love
she
that moment.
sees herself and she knows that that's
Yes.
her. And she says, and she looks at her clothing that she came to the session with, and she goes, and I don't dress anything like it.
Yes. And that's, I mean, what I love so much about what you talk about is alignment, because I'm about authenticity and alignment with that authenticity. Like, that's what we're here to do, you guys. And I know that for many of you, you got into acting to be somebody other than yourself. And so I know that that's true. And I believe there is plenty of room for you to still do that, to play roles that you feel are not who you are, to play character roles, but there's going to be something to it that you bring to it that's a part of you, that's an authentic part of you, that is why the role within you is so beautifully realized.
I feel like people want to feel alive.
Yes.
They want to feel, this is me. In other words, I'm extraordinary here.
Yeah.
Or we get confused. We did a period piece,
Yeah.
and and we were extraordinary in it.
Yeah.
And then we did this contemporary piece where over here we played some trailer park trash woman,
Right.
and we were extraordinary in it.
Yeah.
And we can't figure out what's going on, and we start to think, oh, I'm good at everything.
Yes.
What we don't realize is that both of these women are
Yeah.
in abusive situations.
Right.
And let's hypothetical that this particular actress is meditating on abuse. Now we're using negative things
Sure,
here,
sure.
sexual
But
perversity,
it's just,
addiction,
it's
and
easy
abuse.
for people to look at.
But just using it as an
Yeah,
example.
to target, yeah.
So we realize she's literally meditating on physical, emotional abuse. We find out that actress has come from a family, a situation where she was abused, and the abuse marked her psyche, not what happened to her specifically, but she got marked as a meditation of abuse. Now that particular actress needs to take that information because they're already meditating on it.
That's right.
They're already living in that
They can't
world.
outlive that. It's their identity. It's who they are.
It's there.
Right.
It's their meditation.
Right.
Now, that being said, what that person does is I always say the affliction is the gift. That's how we look at the ground zero moment. So the affliction being the gift here, this person now can tell these stories in the light of a way that you and I or somebody else who's not meditating there could never bring insight into that world.
And
this woman happens to be of a high socioeconomic period piece. This woman happens to be contemporary trailer park trash. You know why you've chosen those two worlds, but the audience sees you as what an incredible actress.
what range?
That's what range.
What range they
How
have.
incredible.
Yes.
So finding out the niche, not only does it change the life of the trajectory of the career for the person, it literally changes the life of the person because the person comes to realize, I have been meditating on this.
Yes.
I have lived this out since the moment of my ground zero.
Right.
And that shift becomes an enormous cognitive, as you can imagine, getting subconscious information into the cognitive mind. Now I can actually do all these things that are really, really valuable. Is my website in
Right.
alignment? Is my haircut
Headshots.
in alignment? When the person sees the truth, they start to make these assessments for themselves and realize, if I want this to manifest fully in my career, there are things that I'm going to have to do and adjust to.
What actually I really love is you take the time, you sit with them for hours,
Yes.
which I think is important, and you're only doing 2 a day. And here's what
In LA.
And in LA.
I don't do two
One in New York.
Two in New York because I do it in LA because I'm here
You're for a short amount of time.
contained amount of
But
time.
here's what I love about that. To really see and be seen by somebody takes time, because you guys are fucking hiders, man. You guys hide. And so it takes hours of really sitting with somebody, trusting somebody, being seen by somebody, and not just you seeing them, but them seeing you, because that's where trust is born.
It does take time.
It does.
It takes real time. I did 2 sessions, one session that took 6.5 hours last week. And then I think it was the week before that, I did a session where it was 6 hours. On average, it takes about 4 hours, but they can change and they can vary because each psyche is distinct and its own.
Good.
The most important thing for an individual to realize is if I'm only looking at the aesthetics, let's say I get all my aesthetics to look extraordinary, but I'm still out of alignment. A great way to understand it is a still picture
Yes.
has a message in it. But when I am on stage, when I'm in front of a camera, it's action or places and it's go time. Once I move,
Yes.
this is why I say it's actionable. It's a living meditation. Once I move, what I'm moving through the filters of my own psyche. So once I move, what is moving? This is why it's an actionable thing. It's an actable thing. I can do it. This is something that I can do. I can play the script is a woman who's lost and broken and drinking and she's all over the place. I can play that. I can play a woman in search of her identity. I can play these things. These are actable things. If it's not inherently in the script and you know what your acting niche actually is, you can impose a little bit on it.
I agree. I've talked about that in here.
If you know what your acting niche is, the best way is to find your writer, directors, and producers who actually are trying to realize that script, because that's when the life starts to change. That's when the person just has a cataclysmic shift in their career. And what I'm after, ultimately, and perhaps this is out of my own personal frustration as an actor, what I'm after is helping that person who, maybe it's me in the past, right?
Right.
the person that says there's one piece missing.
Yes.
And the piece is that I actually don't know who it is that I am out there in the business. And I don't mean as something put on or adorned.
But authentic.
I mean authentically
Right.
who I am,
Right.
where this thing is moving through
Yes.
me. When I start to move in the world, where do I really come alive?
Mm-hmm.
And the beauty of an acting niche versus, let's say, essence and these things that I call aesthetic projections that an individual is putting onto a person.
Mm-hmm.
You come walking into a room and they have 10 people comment on you. You know, those are personal opinions.
Yeah. Filter through them.
Phil, it's all about them.
Yeah, right.
A painting stands on the wall of the MoMA. Somebody walks up in front of that painting and says, "My God, this is genius."
Yeah.
Next person says, "I finally understand my son." The next person says, "Oh, my 3-year-old could do this."
Yes.
Each person believes they've commented on the painting.
Right.
But the reality is they've only revealed themselves.
Yes.
That's what projection is.
Right.
So when you walk into a room and you've got a bunch of people projecting on you,
Yes.
they've said nothing about you.
They've said
They've
something about
only
them.
revealed themselves. So what this work does is invert all of that.
But wait, John, wait. I have to interrupt you.
Help me. I need some help.
And now it's time for listener questions.
I'm so scared.
This listener question is brought to you by Carla Zuniga. That's Carla Zuniga Hair at Carla Zuniga Hair, CarlaZunigaHair on Instagram. You can also call her for haircuts and stylings. You call 424. I don't know why I said stylings, plural. It's such an old person thing to do, is to be like, stylings. You can call 424-249-3296. Again, that's 424-249-3296. She's also on the Audrey Helps Actors recommendation page. So if you're driving, you don't have to worry about writing it down. Also, you can find her in the show notes. We're going to have a breakdown of all of her contact info. Okay, here's what I love about Carla. Carla is, as I said in the intro, super precise. So many of us need haircuts that can do multiple things as an actor. A lot of you have haircut with a lot of texture, whether that's super wavy, whether that's really curly. I'm telling you, she's a curl master. If you have a lot of texture in your hair, go see Carla. She's really great at listening to you and working slowly with you to make sure that your haircut is evolving and transforming into what you want it to be. A lot of times people have maybe a haircut that was a disaster, and she'll talk to you about, how you can grow that out and what you can do to sort of continue to shape it over time. I went to her because a friend of mine had the best haircut ever. And I was like, the best advice I ever got about hair was, if you're looking for a good stylist, find somebody you know who has a great haircut and ask them where they're going. So I asked my friend where she went, and she said she went and saw Carla. And I was like, that's who I want to go with. So I couldn't recommend her more. I have never had a person not love what she does. Every single person that I know who's gone to see her has just been transformed. And some of you guys, need transformative looks, and it can be really scary to do something dramatic to your hair. And if that's true, you want to go with somebody that is trustworthy and has a reputation for, being supportive and providing excellence. You guys, it's your hair. Be good to your hair. You have to be good to your hair. Men and women, some of you guys, you got to spend money on your haircuts. Stop going to these terrible haircut places where you have these haircuts that are like the saddest, most unfortunate things ever. So if that's you, I really recommend her. She is in West Hollywood, and she's just fantastic. So thanks, Carla. Love you.
Hi, Audrey. I'm listening from Los Angeles. I have a question for you. I have wanted to act pretty much my entire life and just dabbled in it very lightly growing up. And then I ended up going into the music industry for my actual job a few years ago. I've been working in a corporate job for 3 years. It is very rigid and inflexible, and I don't want to do it anymore. And for the past year, I've been really trying to do everything I can without quitting my job. I've been going to classes and investing the money that I make at my job in great headshots and a great reel, and working on little projects on nights and weekends when I can. but I'm kind of feeling like it's that time to take the leap and leave my corporate job so that I can work more fully as an actor and try to pursue representation and things like that. So basically, I'm just asking you if there's a good time to do that, or if it's a better idea to stay in my job and continue making money and continue trying to do these things. I'm just trying to figure out whether it's time to jump or not. So thank you so much for your podcast. I love it. I listen to it every day on the way to my corporate job. All right. Bye.
Hey, girl. I love this question. This is a question I get in some format for a lot of you. So I think the episode that is going to be most helpful to you is How to Quit Your Day Job with Kelly Daniels. That's in season 1. And what we talk about is my personal journey with this, which is what I call a slow and comfortable transition out of your bread and butter job and into your artistic and creative pursuit. Jesse says it's like taking a goldfish and putting out of one take and putting it into another. You have to do it gradually or the goldfish will fucking die. So to whatever help that metaphor is useful to you, but it's not untrue. I'd say 2 things. First of all, I really believe in listening to yourself and your own impulses and your own instincts. I tend to find most people are of one or 2 camps. Either they quit their job impulsively and they can never really gain momentum in their career because they're going from such bang to bust from their corporate job to their professional and artistic pursuit as an actor that they can't really sustain momentum. The other is actors who hold on to their day job for too long and they should have bounced out, earlier to really give a full passionate pursuit to their artistic acting careers. Now, this is honestly for you a more complicated question because I don't really know where you're at as far as being ready to really seek professional career opportunities. Sometimes that has to do with your casting. I met with a friend of mine who he had only been acting really as a pursuit for a couple of years, but his casting was so magnificent and so different from all other actors because he didn't have a lot of acting training behind him. And it sort of manifested itself in, I thought, this really interesting, horror, creepy, stilted, maybe sociopathic way, which is not how he is, but it's because, acting training, you're just like so loose and so capable. And so like, I'm just a guy loosey-goosey around this town. I don't know what that is. And this guy didn't have that. And it was because he'd come from a real corporate environment. And I thought he could use that to his advantage in his pursuit as an actor in this town because he was so different from everyone else. So I would say for you in particular, while you're out and about, I would seek counsel. Amy Linden does consultation. Riza Brahman Garcia, who we're having on next week, she does consultations. And there's plenty of people out there who are qualified to really take a look at you and what you're doing and can help you put together a plan of action out of one career and into another. I think that it probably takes more in depth than just what I can do in this podcast. It has a lot to do with how much money you have saved. Some people have a lot of money saved and they're willing to use that. Some people have parents that pay their rent. Some people have, spouses who take care of the finances. And there's all kinds of things that I think can go into whether or not, honestly, you have the time, energy, and money to pursue acting as a career full time. That would be my advice. And to all of you who are looking to, move out of your day job and move into a full-time acting career, I would say, for a lot of you, calm down. My experience and the awakening I had in my day job was that the feeling you have at your day job is something that you need to work with internally because acting is exciting now, but what will happen in your career is like you'll get an acting job that will basically, if you're so lucky, become your job. And just like any job, there's going to be things about it that are exhausting. There's going to be office politics. There's going to be egos. There's going to be everyone being afraid to lose their job. And in my experience, those stakes actually get heightened. So I really recommend to people to use their day job as a practicing arena to become good at enjoying your job, where you are today, being grateful for it, being grateful for the money it's providing, being grateful for all the things it's able to give you in your life, and finding joy in it where you can. And while you do that, also seek your professional pursuit. All right. I hope that was helpful.
And now back to your regularly scheduled program.
Okay. We always wrap with a list of questions that are on every episode.
Oh, I love that.
Okay, good. The first question is, why this field? Why this art form? Why this?
For me,
Yes,
as a
it's
person?
for you.
Ooh. I probably didn't have much of a choice.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there was enough damage and enough hardship going on in my childhood that I just got bent towards what do other people think about being alive? Because I wasn't having so much fun being alive when I was a boy. And when I started to learn that that other people were here and might have talked or wrote about that, I needed to know what they thought about it.
I love that answer. That's great. What is the best part about this business for you?
I really do like seeing people realize their dreams, and I love seeing that light go off and people reaching that and affecting audiences. I just love that moment when we all know we've experienced something special and something beautiful and phenomenal. I really genuinely love it.
I love that you use the word realized, because that is what it is. It's becoming real. Yeah. What is the worst part about the business for you?
I don't want to throw people under the bus, but I feel like there's a lot of people in the business who need to be quiet.
Tell me about that.
There's a lot of people who falsely call themselves professionals in the business, and they don't have the right to be speaking on the things that they're speaking on. They just don't know enough.
Yeah.
They haven't been in it enough. They haven't really been actors. They haven't really been writers or directors. They haven't really been producers. They haven't really been in it, and they've somehow wiggled themselves into positions to stand on some kind of soapbox, and they need to step off the soapbox and let people who actually do know what the mechanics of it all is speak. They need to let that happen.
I totally agree. And I would say...
So I'm saying frauds.
Frauds, yeah. Snake oil salesman. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And that's so much of why this podcast exists, is because I am so...
Pissed.
Well, pissed for sure. I was going to say heartbroken and also devastated about the very legitimate amount of incredible voices that we have lost in this field, in this business, in this art form, because they were too lost and too frustrated for too long that they walked away.
Yes.
Because people weren't honest, and the people who were qualified weren't speaking, and the people who weren't qualified were. And in my estimation, it's not just your agents or your acting teachers or your coaches. It's often the people in the bigger leagues. It's so many of it is the producers and the writers, and they got that show made because they went to college with so and so who gave them the green light. And I'm so passionate about story, and I have come to realize that not nearly as many people understand story to the degree that I think they need to. And that's all the way up the ladder. And that can be painful.
Yeah. It's sad. And it's definitely something that I can really get pull out the anger about.
Yeah.
Not because of so much personal experiences, because I was very lucky as an actor. But I feel like there are way too many people manipulating good people.
Oh, God, yes.
I don't like fraudulence. I don't like
Yes.
people to manipulate other people.
Yes.
And I feel like, unfortunately, we are in a business where
So
there are a lot of
easy.
people just trying to pay their rent at the expense of other people, even though they know deep down what they're offering is bullshit,
Yes.
to be frank.
What do you wish somebody had managed to teach you or get you to understand when you were just a wee babe embarking on this business?
I love this question, and you're the first person to ever ask me it, and because I actually know what I want to say to this, and I'm
Right.
glad you asked it. I wish I was told that all my pain, all my insecurities, all my traumas, all my low-class, food stamp raised, suffering, impoverished, and living in the dumps and trying to pull ourselves out of lower economic status was all the things that all artists thrive on.
Yes.
I wish that I didn't think of myself as being other than these great and extraordinary people. I was looking at Hollywood and people, and I saw them as the other world. I wish that someone had told me, all of the crap you come from, kid, and all of the pain and suffering that you have going on in you, and all this impoverishment, every single one of those stars, you're just like them. I wish I knew that. Instead, what I had done is I had created this world where they were movie stars,
Yes.
and I was just this kid from the ghetto.
And can I tell you, that is so much, when you talk about intention, the intention of this podcast, because I'm so frustrated by the fact that there is this distance, that we have working actors up on this pedestal, and then all the information about them is publicity. And I know so many actors, I know their story, and I read an article about them, and it's like they were working at Dupar's, and somebody came up to them, and I'm like, no, they were living with their manager, possibly blowing them, then got these auditions, then did this indie film, then continued living with their manager rent-free, possibly blowing them, then got this other film that then led to this series. Dupar's had nothing to do with it. So it's this sort of game of lies, or as we call it in Los Angeles, publicity, which I'm actually fine with. I don't mind publicity.
They're creating a myth and a story, and
I
you
don't
can't
mind
give
that.
the documentary
No,
version,
exactly.
right?
But what I do mind is that actor to actor, artist to artist, insulary in our own community, that we are not sharing our truth, our journey. We are not being transparent with all of it, the joys and the hardships, the struggles and the financial realities and the wins, and all of it isn't all being shared as the paint palette.
That's where art is birthed from.
Correct.
That's the bottom line, what I realized in time. And
Yes.
that's why when you asked, I wished someone had told me earlier. I wish someone had told me all the great songs are coming from that.
Yes.
All the great poetry comes from that.
Well, it reminds me of wine. You guys know how much you love wine. One of the things you learn about wine is the better the wine, the more the roots struggle to live. That's what wine is. It's not the best soil. It's the heart. It's the roots have to torture themselves
Interesting.
to exist.
Oh, I love that image.
And through that comes the best, most interesting, complex depth flavor to the grape, which makes the best glass of wine.
That's great.
Isn't that great?
That's great.
Okay. Well, John, thank you so much for
This
being
is
here.
really my honor. Really
Oh, good.
excellent.
No, excellent.
Beautiful.
And those of you who are looking for John, do you want to shout out where you are? Instagram, social media, website? What do you got?
Well, my website's just my name, johndapolito.com.
Do you want to spell that?
So you can check it. Sure. JOHNDAP as in Peter, OLIT as in Tom, O. So johndapolito.com. There's tons of videos. It's loaded with
Great.
information there. And also my Instagram and Twitter are there. You can grab it all off there.
Okay, great. Awesome. Well, this has been a pleasure, and thank you so much.
My honor. Thank you.
Of course. Next week on Audrey Helps Actors, we're talking to Risa Brauman Garcia. Risa Brauman Garcia is a veteran casting director. She is a masterclass teacher here in Los Angeles, and I really adore her. I think she's so passionate about actors and art and, transparency and information and creation and creativity. And I have studied with her personally, and I just think she's tops. She's cast so many truly prolific projects in her life, and she works with actors daily and has a lot of empathy, compassion, and passion for them. Special thanks this week to John Dapolito. John, thank you so much for coming on. I know he's in LA, I think right now, doing some of his work here in town. And if you're in New York and this sounds exciting to you, check him out. This show is produced by Jesse Lumen, my now husband. What's up? You guys, he's still so handsome. This episode is edited by Patricia Cuffie-Jones and Thomas Snodgrass. Also, shout out to Thomas for the mic assistance now and then. It's still good to have your sound guy across the street. Show music is brought to you by Ari De Niro. Theme song assistance is by Aalok Mehta and 108 Hill. All right, you guys, don't forget your towel.